The first thing I noticed when I opened the door of the car wasn't the body. It was the smell. Not blood, not decomposition. Just leather. Expensive leather. The kind you only find in wallets that cost more than the monthly rent of some people. And that wallet, wide open on the center console, was bursting with $100 bills. That's not something you see every day, especially not next to a man with a bullet in his head. The victim was Jacob Myers, 54, divorced, CPA, lived alone in a townhouse in Charlotte, North Carolina. No priors, no enemies on paper. A regular guy who drove a 2015 Lexus and paid his taxes on time. Shot once, execution style, while parked on the top level of a public garage downtown. No witnesses, no security cameras pointed at the right angle, and no signs of a struggle. The cops were ready to call it a botched robbery, but that wallet didn't make sense. Over $6,000 in crisp bills, all neatly arranged, unmarked. No credit cards missing. No ID tampered with. Whoever shot Jacob didn't take a thing. I've seen a lot of people die in cars, but rarely with that kind of money left untouched. I leaned into the passenger seat, careful not to touch anything. His phone was unlocked, lying face down on the floorboard. That alone raised a red flag. People don't just leave their phones unlocked unless they're told to, or they trust whoever's around. And from what I saw, Jacob was parked here for exactly 11 minutes before he died. A forensic sweep of the vehicle gave us a partial print on the interior driver's side door, too smudged for identification, gunpowder residue on the driver's seat and steering wheel, confirming the shot came from the passenger side, which meant Jacob let his killer sit down beside him. That suggested familiarity. But here's the thing. We checked Jacob's contacts. No strange calls. No scheduled meetings. His last text was sent to his daughter, Megan, 6 minutes before his estimated time of death. It read, "Running late. Talk soon." That's it. Nothing dramatic. No goodbyes. No warnings. Just ordinary. I visited Megan 2 days later. Grief is a strange thing to read on someone's face, especially when it's mixed with confusion. She kept repeating how careful her father was with money, how he never carried cash. Always said it was a liability. She even showed me a text he sent weeks earlier. Digital only. I don't trust paper anymore. So why the hell was he walking around with over $6,000? The answer came from a different direction. While combing through Jacob's financial records, we found several cash withdrawals made over the past month. Small amounts, each from different ATMs, scattered across the city. None of them near his home or office. He was building up a stash, slowly and deliberately, and always under the $10,000 reporting threshold. Classic structuring, which usually means one thing: someone's paying off or getting paid. But Jacob didn't have gambling debts. No sketchy side business. No evidence of extortion. Just routine. Too routine. Until we checked his recent calendar. Hidden among dentist appointments and golf tee times, there was a private entry, no title, just a location. A diner on the outskirts of town. Same place, same time, every Wednesday for the last 2 months. I went there. The waitress recognized his photo immediately. "That guy," she said. "Always alone. Always orders the same thing. But 2 coffees. Every time. 2 coffees." I asked if she ever saw him meet someone. She hesitated, then nodded. Once. A woman. Black hair, mid-30s. Sat down, didn't touch the coffee. They talked for maybe 10 minutes. She looked upset. We pulled footage from a nearby gas station security cam, angled just enough to catch the diner's side lot. And there she was, getting into his car the day before murder. We ran facial recognition. Her name was Vanessa Rourke, former client. Her ex-husband had hired Jacob for forensic accounting during their divorce proceedings 3 years earlier. But the case had gone sideways when Jacob uncovered hidden offshore accounts and chose not to report them. Instead, he allegedly made a deal. According to Vanessa, Jacob had been blackmailing her ex for nearly 2 years. Monthly cash drops, no paper trail. Vanessa had found out about it only recently. She confronted Jacob. He denied everything, said he was just helping out. Then she found something in her ex-husband's safe, a burner phone filled with messages to Jacob. Threats, payments, coordinates. When we brought the ex in, Daniel Rourke, he didn't deny the money. He denied the murder. Said he'd stopped paying 2 weeks ago. Told Jacob he was done. He assumed the accountant would back off, but Jacob didn't. We retrieved a dash cam from a nearby vehicle in the parking garage. It didn't catch the crime itself, but it caught Daniel's car entering the structure 2 minutes before Jacob's estimated time of death and exiting 3 minutes later. That was all we needed. They say the perfect crime is one that makes no noise. But this one, it left too much silence. No struggle, no theft, no signs of panic. Just a man sitting calmly in a car, wallet full of cash, waiting to be killed by someone he trusted. Because he thought leverage was stronger than fear. He was wrong. And that leather smell? It wasn't the wallet. It was the trace of a man who thought money could protect him from a bullet that was already on its way. There's something about old houses that makes you listen more than talk. Maybe it's the way they shift with the weather. Maybe it's the way their silence feels earned. Or maybe it's just the creaking. Creaks that tell you someone's moving. Or at least should be. The call came in on a Thursday morning. Upstate New York. A cabin, technically a vacation home, rented through a listing site. A young woman, Clara Jennings, reported that her fiancé, Mike Hargrove, had gone missing overnight. She said he went out to smoke by the deck around midnight and never came back. Just vanished. But it wasn't the disappearance that brought me there. It was the part the local officer couldn't let go of. There's something off about the house. She says she didn't hear anything. And in that place, you hear everything. He wasn't exaggerating. The cabin was built in the 1940s. Real timber. Original floors. Every step grown, not a modern groan, an old, arthritic, deliberate protest, especially the hallway floorboard right outside the bedroom, the one that made a distinct, dry pop underweight. Only, that board hadn't made a sound the night Mike vanished. Clara was waiting on the porch when I arrived. 29, school teacher, calm but overcompensating, too willing to fill the silence. She repeated the story 3 times. They'd spent the day hiking, ate pasta for dinner, watched a movie. Around midnight, he got up, kissed her, and stepped outside. She fell asleep, woke up to an empty bed. No sound. I asked. She shook her head. Nothing, not even the door. But when I stepped on that hallway floorboard later, it shrieked like a dying violin, loud enough to wake anyone. That's when I knew. If Clara was telling the truth, Mike never made it to the door. I examined the interior. Nothing broken. No blood. No signs of forced entry or struggle. The front door showed no prints other than theirs. The porch was clean, no drag marks, no cigarette butts. But I kept circling back to that floorboard. I asked the technician to record sound levels of every board down that hallway. That particular one gave off a consistent decibel peak when stepped on, and it was directly in the path from the bed to the front door. For Mike to leave, that board had to creak, unless he never left at all. I checked the basement. Dusty, sealed windows, shelving filled with old tools, one shovel missing. Clara said they hadn't gone down there, but I found her footprints next to the door. That's when I took a closer look at the floorboards under the bed. 3 were different. Same wood, same stain, but the nails were newer. 2 clean, 2 recent. I lifted one. Underneath was a hollow section, roughly 5 feet long, wide enough for a body. We brought in cadaver dogs. They hit instantly. Mike's body was found buried just outside the tree line behind the house, under 6 inches of disturbed earth. The same shovel was recovered nearby. Autopsy. Blunt force trauma to the back of the skull. No defensive wounds. He never saw it coming. When we confronted Clara, she didn't break. Not at first. But the problem with lies is that they rot from the inside, especially when you convince yourself it wasn't murder. She finally admitted they fought. Not that night, 2 days earlier. She'd found out Mike was planning to leave her, not just break up, move out, Leave her name off a condo they planned to buy together. She saw the email from a mortgage broker. They argued. He said she was too controlling. She said he was a coward. Then, that night, while he was brushing his teeth, she hit him. Just once. He dropped instantly. Panic did the rest. She hid the body under the floor, thinking she'd figure out the next step later. But the silence of the house got to her. She rehearsed the story a dozen times. Told herself he left. Maybe he ran. Maybe he fell somewhere. The only problem? That one damn floorboard didn't creak. It betrayed her. People forget how much noise truth makes when you're trying to stay quiet. A lie needs you to cover every angle. The truth doesn't care. It just waits. So when you're in an old house and one step doesn't sound like the others, ask yourself, what's not being said? You don't expect a tech millionaire to be careless. Not when every article about him talks about how paranoid he was with security, fingerprint door locks, encrypted emails, even a Faraday cage built into his office. So when I found myself staring at his laptop and the password worked on the first try, I knew someone was lying. His name was Simon Calder, 42, founder of a successful cybersecurity startup based in Palo Alto. Sold it for millions. The kind of guy who wore a smartwatch that didn't display the time, just heart rate and encrypted messages. The kind of guy who didn't even trust the cloud to store his grocery list. His body was found inside his home office. Shot once in the head. No forced entry. No signs of struggle. The gun was on the floor. His prints on the handle. Looked like suicide at first. Until you saw the screen of his laptop. He died with it open. That alone was suspicious. Simon never left anything logged in. But there it was, his email inbox glowing against the dim light of his underground office. That's what brought me in. The local detective, sharp guy named Ruiz, called me the second he noticed a strange detail. There's no sticky notes, no visible password manager, and the guy had military-grade encryption. But the laptop opened. Just like that. That meant one of two things. Either someone had coerced the password out of him before killing him, or they didn't need to guess it. The first thing I did was take a forensic image of the drive. Standard. But what caught my eye was a login event. According to the system logs, the password was entered only once. No trial and error. No typos. No brute force. Just one clean input. And it happened 3 minutes after Simon had died. So who knew the password? His partner, Elise, said he changed his login credentials every 2 days. Randomized strings. She claimed she never knew them. But Elise had been living with Simon for over 5 years. Long enough to pick up habits. Patterns. Maybe even a favorite phrase. But the password used that day wasn't a random string. It was a name. Charlotte. Simon's sister. She died in a car crash 10 years ago. And according to metadata in some of his emails, he still used variations of her name for encrypted backups. It was his emotional weak spot. So now I had something. The person who opened that laptop knew more than just a password. They knew Simon's emotional wiring. I asked Elise again if she'd ever seen him use that name in logins. She paused, blinked twice, said, "That's strange. I haven't heard him say her name in years." Except that was a lie. Because I'd already pulled an audio log from a smart speaker in the house. 2 nights before he died, he'd asked, "Alexa, play Charlotte's playlist." And Elise was in the room. She knew. She remembered. I dug into her phone next. Buried in deleted messages was a draft email. Never sent. Written the night Simon died. "I can't do this anymore." He found out. If anything happens, it wasn't my idea. The metadata revealed it was saved at 2:12 a.m. Simon was killed at 2:18. 6 minutes. That's when it clicked. She confronted him. He found out she'd been accessing confidential files on his system. Likely ones she wasn't supposed to. Maybe selling information. Maybe prepping for blackmail. Doesn't matter. What matters is that he told her he was going to expose her. And she panicked. She shot him. then log into his laptop with the one password she knew he'd never change, the one no one else would guess. Charlotte. Why? To delete the files, cover her tracks, wipe the evidence. Only she didn't realize the system had forensic backups that triggered on manual deletion. A fail-safe Simon had built himself. A digital dead man switch. She deleted the wrong folder, and in doing so, flagged everything. People think cybersecurity is about walls and firewalls. But the truth is, it's about trust. Who do you let in? Who do you think wouldn't use your grief against you? The password wasn't just a way in. It was a confession. A fingerprint typed in with guilt instead of ink. And in the end, Elise wasn't caught by surveillance or witnesses or DNA. She was caught because the password worked too easily. And in a house built like a fortress, that was the loudest scream of all. Her name was Camille Pearson, 36, a quiet woman, freelance web designer, lived alone in a small townhouse in Austin, Texas. Her neighbors described her as polite, reserved, private. They also said she smoked too much, especially at night. When the call came in, it was a neighbor complaining about the smell of something burning. Firefighters arrived within minutes. No blaze, just a heavy stench of burnt plastic. They entered the townhouse and found Camille lying on the floor of her home office, dead. Initial signs pointed to electrocution. Her laptop charger had a melted connector. Her hand was burned where it touched the cable. Looked like a tragic accident. But I've learned never to trust first impressions, especially when they wrap up too clean. What caught my eye was something seemingly irrelevant. A smoke detector mounted above her desk. It wasn't like the others in the house. Sleeker, newer, with a tiny green light that blinked once every few seconds. At first, I chalked it up to a recent replacement. Then I saw the logo. It wasn't a fire alarm brand. It was a small home security startup, one that specialized in multifunction devices. That wasn't just a smoke detector. It had a built-in microphone, and more importantly, a motion-activated camera. The local tech guys pulled the SD card. The last file was timestamped 3 hours before Camille's death, and when I watched the footage, my stomach turned. Camille is seen pacing in her office, agitated, whispering to herself. She plugs in her laptop, sits down, then suddenly jerks backward, startled by a loud noise from upstairs. She walks out of frame, but here's the thing. She never comes back. 26 minutes later, a man walks into the room. Gloves, mask, calm. He goes straight to her laptop, unplugs the charger, pulls something from his pocket, and starts replacing the end of the charging cable with a near-identical one. One I'd later learn had been modified with a high-voltage discharge component, a murder device. Then he walks out. Camille didn't die from a short circuit. She was murdered. The footage didn't show his face, but it gave us enough height, build, movements. But most of all, it proved premeditation. Someone knew her habits well enough to time it precisely. Someone who knew what she'd do the moment she got back. I needed context. So I dug into her calls, emails, messages. That's when I found a string of anonymous emails from a disposable account, sent over the past 2 weeks. The tone was subtle at first, someone pretending to be a potential client. But the requests grew personal, then obsessive, then threatening. Every trace led to a dead end, until I found the mistake. The last email had an attachment, a mock-up for a fake website. It was a design file, and it included metadata. One layer still had the original user tag, R.Coburn, Robert Coburn, 41, former client, filed a dispute over a logo Camille had designed for him 3 months earlier, claimed she overcharged, took her to small claims court, and lost. That was motive. I visited his apartment. No answer. I got a warrant. Inside, I found 3 things. A bag with electronics tools, another smoke detector identical to Camille's, and a notebook filled with obsessive entries, diagrams of her townhouse, sketches of her floor plan, and one phrase repeated over and over: she doesn't deserve to walk away clean. We arrested him that night. He denied everything, of course, but the handwriting, the device match, the camera footage, and the metadata buried him. At trial, his defense tried to argue that the video didn't clearly identify him, but the prosecution didn't need it to. The tech trail alone was a noose. You see, sometimes the smartest criminals think one step ahead, but overlook the device right above their heads. Because the smoke detector he didn't notice, the one he himself had installed during a fake maintenance visit weeks prior, it recorded everything. Camille's murder was deliberate, cruel, and silent, but the camera never blinked. It sat there, watching, until the truth surfaced. And me, I think about the irony. He created the very witness that would later destroy him. A quiet little plastic eye in the ceiling that never lied,